DC Multiverse!
How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brad, the DC Universe Geek, and today we're going to be reviewing the DC Multiverse, The Flash, and Batman of Earth -52 2-pack. Here's the front of the box. It's very familiar because it's black, white, and blue as usual. You can see both the figures clearly displayed behind that great big window. Here's the left-hand side of the box. Here's the right-hand side of the box. Here's the back. You've got an image of each of the characters that will also be the trading card. Now in this video, I'm also going to be opening up the basic Flash figure, as honestly, it's got the same artwork on the back. It's the same figure except for it has a different head and you've got different lightning accessories. So I'll do both Flash figures in this video. But for now, let's just get this bad boy out of the package. And so now that we've got them all out of the package to have a better look at them, this is pretty nice, actually. You got the two figures, you got the trading cards, and you have this really interesting action figure stand. Let's take a look at both of them a little bit closer, starting with Red Death, whom the words Speed Demon come to mind when I see this guy, because he looks like a demon out of DC Speed Force hell. And also, much like Red Death's speed, this guy's detail is off the charts. And he seems like a perfect example of what McFarlane is capable of when his sculpting team really puts their mind to it. And the head sculpt looks pretty much spot on for the source material. It's got the right amount of shading, the paint is where it's supposed to be, and it just looks all around very fantastic. I will say that I would like to repaint these ear fins just because, although they're silver on the sides, they probably should have more on the back and on the insides to be more accurate to the source material. That bat symbol lightning bolt on his chest is really neat and tidy, and really all of the work here that they've put into sculpting all of the red bits that protrude from the rest of the maroon colored sculpt, they look really fantastic. I have honestly nothing bad to say about the sculpt of this figure. It looks so absolutely fantastic. Look at them boots. They look so good. I can't wait to have this guy posed alongside the rest of the Dark Knight's Metal Sausage Fest. I say that because we know there's a female to be released soon to join the team, and that's the Drown. She's already been revealed and I can't wait for her release either. Although honestly, if I did have one thing that I wish were different with this figure is I'm really not digging the whole open hand thing. And really, even having this hand is kind of pointless because, I mean, let's face it, he has nothing to hold on to. Two closed fists on this figure probably would have made more sense. Now let's not forget that the Red Death also comes with a trading card. Because it's more of a shinier, prismy, metallic-y card, it is kind of difficult to make out some of the details unless you're looking at it in the right light. But good thing for us, the back is perfectly legible, and you can pause to read that too if you'd like to. If not, we'll move on to the articulation. So one thing you want with the Speedster figures is you want the articulation in their head to grant them the ability to put their head back a little bit, of which this one has absolutely zero. You can look down, that's a thing, but he can't really look up. Red Death also has the rounded hinge up here in the armpits. He's got that extra little piece of articulation right there that sits in behind it. He's got the bicep swivel right here. He's got a double jointed elbow, and he has the rounded hinge right here in the wrist. Hello! Which means he does in fact have a reasonable amount of articulation in the arms. He's also got articulation in his torso by way of a rounded ball hinge and in the waist, and it does afford quite a bit of articulative motion backwards, although don't expect very much forwards on account of the fact that the articulation piece is actually halfway down the abs rather than being up here. Which means he really, as far as the torso and the head goes, I mean, that's as much forward as he can go. Honestly, that's it. That's really all you're gonna get. Inside of his groin here, he has the McFarlane typical hingy-do going on there. There is some movement around like that. He's got a double jointed knee and another, oh god, that doesn't look right. Hang on. And then another double jointed knee. And that's one thing you can always count on with McFarlane is if they're going to do double jointed knees, they're always incredibly useful. They just mash right up. And then finally he's got the rounded hinge right here and toe articulation, which, I mean, I can't even crunch my own toes up that high, especially in a boot. Certainly a very cool looking figure, probably one of the coolest ones in the entire series, and honestly, this is, out of all of the metal characters, the one that I was the most excited about out of all of them. And now we move on to the Flash, who looks really quite awesome. As far as overall body sculpts for a Flash figure that I've seen ever in the history of Flash figures, this one looks really interesting and intricate and dynamic. His overall aesthetics are quite nice, and this may possibly be the best 7-inch scale Flash figure that we've ever been given. in the history of Flash figures. And as much as I can say 9 times out of 10 I am not a fan of any other facial expression other than neutral with an action figure, I think that this one looks really, really fantastic for what it is. This angry, snarly sneer really looks like he's just given it his all. I will say I definitely am satisfied with the size of his earwings. They are massive, they're huge, they're so exaggerated. And it is cool to see that the detail in his cowl has been sculpted as well, all the way around to the back of his mask where he's got the lightning bolts. And while this figure does present with a huge amount of unique to the character sculpted detail, what with the belt, and you have the wrist cuff area, you got the lines all up and down the sides of his legs, torso, and arms. The boots have accurate to the comic book details here, and they're casted in yellow rather than just being painted in yellow. While there is a huge amount of newly sculpted detail that really emphasizes how awesome this figure is, I will say, as much as some people might be enjoying the sculpted emblem on this Flash, I am not. Sorry, not trying to be an action figure snoot, I just really think that having it this far out is just kind of weird looking. But other than that, really I do think that the figure turned out really, really well. One of McFarlane's finest when you take into account the sculpt, the detail, and the paint apps. A very well executed figure of the Flash. But we sure can't say the same thing about this one. I really wish we could say the same thing for the basic release Flash, but I definitely have my problems with it. Number one, you can see that the emblem here on Flash's chest, I mean, there's a big chunk of plastic sticking off mine, so that's a quality control issue. That kind of stinks. My Flash came with 2 little scuffs on the tip of his nose, another quality control issue. This Flash's earwings are just all kinds of not right. Like this one was sunken into the recesses in the side of his head there, and it points more up, while that one points much farther back. This one's probably actually in a proper placement, while this one is not. And finally, the way that they stuffed the Flash figure in the package, his leg was up like this for so long, probably all the way from the factory, then across on the shipping boat. And so when you take it, down, you got this here. I mean, this is just a mess looking. Now, I know that this is something that I can fix with some hot water or possibly a hairdryer. This is a piece right here that I can just cut off with a razor blade. And the earwings, one of them can be removed and reset in the hole. I can fix this all myself, except for the scuffs on the nose, which is a really low down, dirty crying shame. But the question is, should I have to? Now, old Flashy Pants here, at least the basic release, actually does come with these lightning effects. The one you're looking at here, obviously, is attached to his back, and it's got little hingy-doos, so you can kind of direct it where you want it to go. He's also got one for each arm. They just plug right into this little hole, little socket right here in his forearm. It would be kind of cool if the effects actually sunk all the way in rather than being, they're sticking out, the peg is sticking out. That's kind of ugly. But they certainly are a very neat way of having a lightning effect for this figure. I'll give it to Todd there for sure. He's also got a lightning effect that gets attached to each side of his calf. So you've got, again, a little hole right there. You got the peg and you just plunk the peg in the hole like that. And ta-da! You've got a bunch of lightning effects. And there is also one more lightning effect that is meant to go on the action figure stand like that. And then Flash's foot gets attached to the effect like so. So essentially what we end up with is a figure that has a lot of lightning effects. Some of you who are shelfers might actually really want to put these on him, get him in a good pose, and then just leave him there. While someone like myself will probably pull the effects off, and unless I'm doing some kind of action figure photography, I will likely never use them again. Now, I'll be back in a second. I'm taking this guy upstairs to go and try and fix these issues, and then I'll come down and finish the video. Okay, I'm back, and with good news. I was able to fix most of the problems in this figure. For one, I was able to just cut off that extra piece of ugly yellow plastic that was stuck up on his emblem here. Two, with a little bit of boiling water, I could soften up the earwing and pull it right off, and you can see how it's attached just like that. It fits right in this little hole. But now that it's been loosened, I can just pull it down to where I want it to be and adjust it as I see fit until they're both even. And as I said, just using boiling water or a blow dryer will put the plastic right here back where it's supposed to be. So that side by side, these figures are now completely comparable. And even though I'm usually partial to the neutral face head sculpt because it just looks better to just stand them in the neutral pose, This one is definitely more interesting to look at. Flash also comes with a trading card. Here's a little look at the shiny one, and if you can't quite make out the picture because it's the shiny one, well, here's the basic one on the left and the one that came with the 2-pack on the right, both of which have the exact same bio, so feel free to pause and read this if you'd like to. If not, let's go over the articulation. And so the first thing you want to do is find out exactly how much articulation he's going to have at the neck. That's not really a whole lot. He can definitely look back further than Red Death could, though. And like Red Death, he has the rounded hinge right here in the armpit with the butterfly thing. He's got the bicep swivel, the crunchy double jointed elbow. He can actually touch the back of his head. And the rounded peg hinge right here in the wrist. And we know typically what that's going to be able to do. He's got the ball joint in the torso, which affords a really nice amount of articulation. And he has the ball joint in the waist, affording a lot of really cool articulation as well. So McFarlane usually does a good job with the bodies of his figures. Not always. Sometimes it's kind of like a fart in the dark, but other times, like this, it really works. He's got the McFarlane groin. He's got the rotative motion here, not a ton, just a little bit. He's got the double jointed knees. He's got the rounded hinge in the ankle, and he's got the toe articulation. And personally, I feel like this is more than enough articulation for a Flash figure. But be warned, if you leave him in running pose too long, you'll have to heat this up and let the rubbery plastic relax back to its initial shape. Oh, and just before we go, we should probably take a look at this figure stand that they come with. This one is obviously a 2-figure stand because there's a peg here and a peg here. Very interesting, hollow underneath, but certainly not something that Todd's ever offered before. So an E for effort and a W for WTF am I supposed to really do with this? I kid, I know exactly what it's for. It's for doing this with it. So now that we looked at everything, both Flash figures and the Red Death figure, what do I think about these guys? Do I think that they were worth the time and effort to track down? In my case, it was from Amazon. Or do I think that you should just leave them wherever they lie? Be it Amazon, because you're going to order them too, maybe EB Games if you live in Canada, or GameStop in the States, Walmart or Target. Should you leave them on the pegs? My answer is no. If you find them, grab them up, because I really enjoyed these figures. They're fun to fiddle with. They look fantastic. That Red Death is fire. What a speed demon looking badass. The sculpting detail is off the charts. You've got fantastic painted detail actually on both of them. The quality control, especially on the Flash that came in the 2-pack, was just fine. The only issue I had was with the single carded Flash, and he just did not turn out right. I have no idea how he made it in a package. Thankfully, I was able to fix that Flash up, but you might not be as savvy, you might not be as confident with a razor blade and some boiling water, and I would say, look at the Flashes, the single carded ones that are on the pegs, and pick the best one and leave the rest to hang in there, because it sucked opening up the package and finding so many quality control issues. I felt like I was looking at a Mattel Multiverse figure or something like that. We all remember the bad paint apps I used to get on some of them. And I love the Multiverse, but I just had to buy sometimes 3 figures to get one that wasn't knackered. So yeah, I liked them. If you can find them out in the wild or online, I say definitely pick them up. They're worth the time and the effort. They're going to look fantastic on your shelf, and they're going to be great additives to your action figure collection, DC or otherwise. But anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Hopefully you found this video to be a useful, interesting waste of time for the day. If you did, you could leave a like on it. That's going to help me out a lot. Any comments you have, you know where they go. And I will see you with the next one. Have yourself a super awesome, fantastic DC day, and take care.